He's coming back as running for city councilor at large. So we are very curious and want to know what you're going to be doing different, because at large is a lot different than citywide. I mean, at large is district.
Yeah.
Like two different things,
Yeah.
really. But good morning, Frank. And we have Miss Louisa. Is I say right?
Yes, Louisa.
Okay. And my sidekick Jackson here. We're going to be talking, of course, about upcoming election not next week, but the week after next. September 9th is primary day. And we want everybody to go out and vote. We can't tell you who to go vote for, but you need to make your voices heard. And your vote is your voice. And the only time your vote don't count is when you don't cast it. So good morning, Frank. How are you?
Good morning, Priscilla. Thanks for having me. I'm pretty well. I can't complain.
Yes. So you're gonna try this route again, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
So tell us, why did you decide to jump back in?
Well, I mean, I left because I got sick. COVID was tough on me. I had some long-term effects, and you know, I left with a lot of undone things, I think, you know, and so like the city council isn't the type of job we can just turn to the boss and say, I need 6 months off, I need to rest my head, I need to rest my heart, and things like that. You have to sign on to run for a campaign, and it's decisions that are made a year out, a year in advance. So when I realized how literally sick and tired I was, I had to just step back and be mature enough to not do, because I could have still gotten elected, but I wouldn't have been able to represent District 3 the way that it deserved. So I stepped back and took the 2 years off, and I feel good. I feel more healthy, not just in my body, but also in my mind. You know, I left. We had a contentious couple of years there on the city council, and a lot of people are saying to me, well, you going back in there to fight? And I'm like, no, I'm not going back in to fight. I think the big difference between a district and an at-large, in a district you represent, the obvious difference is you represent approximately 75,000 people. Now I'm looking to represent 750,000 people. That's a bigger voice, more, you know, like more people paying attention to me representing more people. So I love the city of Boston, so I want to represent the whole city, and those things that were left undone, I want to bring those across the city. You know, like I worked a lot on job training and mentoring and things like that, and I think, you know, like I would be at home watching city council meetings like the way people watch the Super Bowl, you know. So I'm like, what's going on in there, you know? And I think most importantly, the voice that I had when Menino was in, the voice that I had even as a friend. Marty was my friend, but I was still independent, you know. And I think there needs to be more voices of independence and balance on the city council. You know, people that are paying attention to and know and understand that they work for the city of Boston. They work for the people of Boston. They don't work for departments. They don't work for the mayor. They work for the people of Boston. So,
well, I think some of the city councils don't realize that. I think some of them think that they work for the mayor and they have to do the mayor's bidding, and that is a problem. And so we got a lot of things going on in this city of Boston during this election.
yeah,
We got to talk about the topic of the year, which is White Stadium.
yeah,
We got to talk about deed restriction,
yeah,
bike and bus lanes,
yeah,
no elected school committee. You know, there are a lot of things that are going on in our community, and people are not happy. And some people are speaking and some are not. But I think next week when we vote, I think there's going to be some changes, and I
Yeah.
think it's going to be some surprises.
yeah.
And so I am I'm looking forward. So tell us, and this is Louisa. So is she your campaign manager?
No, Luisa's just she's my bodyguard. Luisa Siciliano. That's Italian, yeah.
Oh,
but she was a political science
Major.
major at Suffolk. Well, I don't know, we didn't
Yeah.
want to be on the radio,
No,
but
it's
you
okay.
know, she's a young kid that cares and wanted to be involved. Actually, friends of hers saw me and talked to me and introduced us. So I was drawn to her instantly, and you know, I think we need, as a group of Bostonians, need to get more younger people involved, because Priscilla, you and I have been around this 30, 40 years. We're doing it past, we've been around. It's time to generate a group of younger people that care about Boston first, you know, and we're gonna put Boston first, and we don't necessarily need to agree all the time, but we need to be able to have conversations like this.
Right, and that's why I started my organization, Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute.
Yeah.
Well, it's all about civics, it's about leadership, it's about advocacy, it's about giving our youth their voice and giving them opportunities to speak, you know. We have, you know, we've had elected officials on. We bring in elected officials to our programming. We bring in community leaders, and we want them to learn this politics.
Yeah.
Because, like they say, I think it's T. Michael that says, "Politricks," you know. And so we have to do something different.
Yeah.
You know, we can't expect to get the same results. I mean, different results doing the same thing. That's insanity, which
Yeah.
I think some of us are. But anyway,
I agree.
But
I'm breaking back into jail, going back into the city council, you know. So
I know.
some people may think that I have something wrong in my head. So,
Yeah,
but I believe in the city.
yeah. I believe in this city too. I was born and raised in Boston, and I've been here for many years, and I have seen many changes. Some I liked and some I didn't like. But I've always been the type of person that I speak my mind. I don't bite my tongue, and I fear no one but God.
Yep.
And so I have been seeing a lot of things that just does not make any good sense.
Yep.
Like White Stadium.
Yeah.
Help me understand that. I mean,
Well, I think you helped me understand it. To sum it up, it's just not a good deal on any level, I think, for the city of Boston. Not just the neighborhood that it's going to severely affect, but also the surrounding neighborhoods, the transportation plan. We're looking for information on the transportation plan. We still don't know what it's going to cost. And the latest numbers were something around 170 million. And now don't forget, that's 170 million hour upfront cost. We're putting that on a credit card. So you know, like anybody, you put it on a credit card, this suit costs you, you know, $300 or whatever the suit costs you. By the time you're done paying for it, it costs you $700 or whatever it costs you, you know. So we put 200 million, 150 million on a credit card, takes us 40 years to pay it. How much is that going to be at the end? That's my grandchildren still paying that in taxes to something that I question the benefit. Who's going to truly benefit from that? Like, do we need beer gardens? Do we need executive suites? Do we need, you know, there's a whole lot of stuff that I question up there, you know. And if I were in that neighborhood up there that's directly affected, then I would have a much bigger problem than I have now.
yeah. Well, I know there's a group called the Franklin Park Defenders that are really trying to bring a halt to this. You know.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. You
Yeah.
know, from what I've understood about the project, it just doesn't make good sense. It's going to impact so many communities and so many people in their own, like, getting in and out of their own homes. That makes no sense to me.
If you want to
know?
have a barbecue on a Saturday, you have to go to the city and ask for permits. Like,
Come
what
on,
is
I
that?
mean, that's another thing they need to redo, their permitting process, because that's
Yeah.
a mess.
Yeah.
I don't care what you're trying to get from the city, you know. And so there are a lot of things that people are just not happy with. And I know as a at-large city councilor, you're almost like a second mayor, you know, because
That sounds good.
all these at-large city councils represent the entire city.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you think about it, what about the bike and bus lanes? What's your take on that?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of the issues that we have in the city of Boston, you can almost interconnect all of them, and like, so, like, if you take housing, one of the fixes around housing, of course, building more housing, but is a better transportation plan. So I don't want to say I'm anti-bike lane or I don't think the bike lanes add value. I think they absolutely add value, but it has to be looked at more comprehensively. We have to look at the entire city and come up with a network. Like, you're on bike lanes that who knows where they start, who knows where they end. You'll see bike lanes, they end and put the bikers into really dangerous positions, or how they interact with people crossing the street, things like that. I think
and what about the fact that some of them aren't even being used?
Well, yeah, well,
they're there, but no one uses them.
Well, that question, that begs the question: are we doing this painting lines and putting up the posts to say we just did some things? It needs to be really thought out, and the ones that aren't being used, they should probably be taken away. Like, where do we need bus lanes? It's your travel routes are south to north, north to south, east to west. Like, you don't need. Every street doesn't need to have a bike lane on it, I don't think. We're not utilizing along the highway, along the train tracks and things like that. If we could build bike lanes along those routes that are already predetermined routes that deliver people from south to north into the city, things like that. I just think they were done sort of, not necessarily people focused, and who is using the bike lanes? Are we using the bike lanes so people can travel through our neighborhoods? Are the bike lanes designed so maybe those bikers will stop and get a coffee or a breakfast sandwich or something in any of the neighborhoods that they're looking to traverse? Doesn't seem like they're helping business out at all. If anything, it looks to me, and what I hear from business communities, is that they're hurting business. When you take away all the parking in a whole business district, you take away all the parking, like, that business district hurts, and we claim to care about small business, we claim to care about communities, but yet we're not listening to them.
What about the bus lane down Blue Ave? Where did that come from, and why?
Well, without being on the city council and knowing how it came to fruition, I wouldn't be able
to fruition in the last 2 years, right?
I never saw it before that. Then again, I was a district council that did not represent Blue Hill Ave. I think there used to be a trolley that went down there. Maybe that's what they were thinking. But the reality is this, Priscilla. If an entire community, or 80% or 90% of community, says, we don't want this, then you have to be, as a leader, you have to say, this community doesn't want that. Let's think of an alternative to that. What do we do? And that's the same as with White Stadium. If the surrounding community is overwhelmingly against, and you're still going to push forward, that rings hollow to me.
Just like almost 80% voted for a elected school committee, and that was ignored. Yeah. And so we need people, we really need people in office that really care about the people. Yeah. Like my tagline, we are the people, we have the power. And we have to really let our people know that we do have the power. We can make things change. We can change things if we get to the polls. Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk about school committee for a second. Can we do that for a second?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I filed back in, when Marty Walsh first got in, I filed two things. I filed first for city council confirmation powers of the school committee, because the reality is, the school committee happens. I would let's take a poll. Let's ask every city council who the school committee is. The council probably doesn't even know who they are. We don't know who they are. So I had filed for confirmation powers, which was in the original legislation going back to, I think it was 93 when Ray Flynn changed it. And now don't forget that the school committee back then, 70s, 80s, was supercharged, super political, not necessarily doing the right thing by the people. So I filed, and the second thing I filed was for a hybrid school committee, because I do believe in a strong mayor system. But I had also, as a district city council, fielded in September, we're coming up to it, when those city council lines are going to be ringing with people with questions around the school and school assignment and buses, that where was the bus, how come the bus wasn't here, and you really don't have that many people in the school department to call as a city councilor. So I had automatically said to myself, we should have some sort of representative there that people can call, like they're calling me, to help them navigate through the school department. Don't forget, the school department is half of our budget. If our budget this year was, I think it was $4.4 billion, so $2 billion plus goes to just the schools. You know, so I had advocated for a hybrid school committee, and then that way, and also to give the balance to the mayor, whoever the mayor is, four seats appointed, but still confirmed by the city council. Then that way you would know them, and the power in the city council, that confirmation, when people are made a department head or made a chief, we could or would bring them in front of us in the city council to sit and talk to them. And one of my colleagues, when I first got on, said to me, he said, the most important thing for you to do as a counselor when someone that's running a department or is a chief or is in a position of power, you need to go over, look them in the eye, shake their hand and say, let me have your cell phone number so you can call them. Because as an executive, as a city councilor, you're an executive for the city of Boston. So you deal with the top person, wherever that is, whether if it's in the school department, you know, so you need to get those cell phone numbers. And we don't have that in the way that the school committee is just appointed by the mayor, and there's no real fallback on the city council.
Good morning, Carly Roney.
Good morning, Mr. Priscilla and Mr. Baker. How are you?
Good morning.
Hi, Eric. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm here at Faulkner, Brigham and Women listening. But my question to Mr. Baker is, what is your thoughts on the city of Boston becoming the city of speed bumps?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually a proponent of speed bumps, but like everything, the neighborhoods that are getting them, they need to be told that they're getting them. And what I saw, the implementation of it, you know, you may have a street that could probably use 1 or 2 speed bumps. We've got 7 on there, you know, so it's overkill. It needs everything. You need to have buy-in from stakeholders. You need a process in everything you do. And again, when I was a kid, I was hit by a car on the street that I grew up on. So we've always looked to slow the traffic down, and people do drive too fast through the streets. I also passed legislation early on in my council career to lower the speed limit from 30 down to 20. And we actually got 25, and that was the impetus for a lot of the safe street zones and things like that, which I agree with. But again, you know, if we can get away with 2 speed bumps, let's put 2 there and not 7. So I'm a proponent of them in theory, but, you know, people need to want them if they're coming into their neighborhood.
When they were implemented, do you know if first responders like the commissioner, police commissioner, fire commissioner, EMS people, were they consulted in this?
I can't, not being involved in conversations, for years, because I had advocated for speed bumps in multiple areas throughout my district, in District 3 when I was there. And a lot of the pushback at that time, coming from Menino and coming from the Walsh administration, was the, you know, the fire commissioner or the fire trucks going over, and more importantly, probably the ambulances when someone's in the back of an ambulance going over speed bumps. So that was always the reasoning behind it. I don't know what the change of heart or the change of mind was. You know, I could have some theories, but that would just be speculation.
Great.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Yep.
Bye. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm calling in from Lynn, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a homeowner, and my question for the counselor is, does he know anything about Blue Hub Capital? And if he does, what are his thoughts on, you know, what's going on with the predatory lending in Massachusetts?
I'm somewhat familiar with Blue Hub. I've looked at them a little bit, but from what I've seen, that they're bad actors, and they come in, they're getting money. They're a nonprofit, so that means they raise funds to do that. For all we know, they think they're doing the right thing by the people, but I think the AG is doing a good job on that. I think they're going to have a difficult 26.
Yes, because the judge They went to court. Thank you, caller. They went to court on September 10th, and the judge just came out with his ruling that Blue Hub Capital is a predatory lender.
Yeah.
You know, and so I don't know what the next step is, but however, we got that far because the governor signed that economic development bill that had that piece in there about that it was actually okay to be a predatory lender. Basically, that's what the language said. And so I don't know what's going to happen now that the judge has declared them a predatory lender. So
Yeah, but I think that they're in people's crosshairs now, so hopefully they have difficulty doing business in Massachusetts now, especially in Boston.
right, and it's not only here in Massachusetts. There's like about 9 or 10 other states that they're doing the same thing.
So they're
This is
nationwide.
predatory lending at its worst. You know, we were redlined back in the late 80s. That's why MAHA was created, Mass Affordable Housing Alliance, and NACA, National. I can't remember NACA's name. Their acronym. I can't remember what it stands for, but
Does Nadella run that organization?
Nadella runs the National Coalition Against Predatory Lending.
Yeah.
You were on her show, right?
Yeah. That's where I first heard about the
Yeah.
Blue Hub, and then started, reading
Yeah.
a little bit into it.
Yeah. They are a bad apple, you
Yeah.
know, and they need to be run out of Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And all these other
Exactly.
places, all these other, it's just ridiculous that people continue to prey on poor people and low and moderate
Exactly.
income people. It has to stop.
Yeah.
It has to stop. And then our elected officials who we elect to represent us,
Okay.
they basically do not. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. It's
Yeah.
just a mess.
Exactly.
Okay. We have another caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Thank you, caller, for calling in. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Hi, Priscilla. Hi, Mr. Baker. This is Nardella.
Hey, how are you? We talked you up,
Good.
huh?
Rise and shine. Yes, yes, yes. So my question is, it's a little bit of a follow-up to the previous caller. So Mayor Wu is actually doing business with Blue Hub Capital as a silent financier for some of these projects. I'd like to know, what, if elected, Mr. Baker, would you do to really challenge Mayor Wu and some of her operations? It just seems right now that City Hall is pretty inefficient with, and that the mayor is just running through her own agendas and rubber stamping policies and proposals that really do not benefit the citizens and workers who live and work in Boston.
Well, Nadella, thank you for the question, and I think that's all about independence and knowing the issues and being able to ask the correct questions. And I think I have a history of that, of knowing the issues and asking tough questions. And again, I'm not looking to go in there and fight Mayor Wu, but if she is allowing Blue Hub at the table, then we have to smoke that out and get them out of here. There are ways. There are small developers and small teams that aren't connected on to these nonprofit development teams that are their boards are making money there. I think if we got away from that model and used more of a smaller business type model, like let's go into the neighborhoods and find out who are the small developers that can develop those units, those 20 unit, 30 unit buildings. And I think that's how we get to building more efficiently. And quite frankly, a lot of the bureaucracy that's happened since this administration came in is why we're unable to build. And someone that's not independent, they're not going to be able to say those things. I'm past the point of worrying what people think of me. So I'm going to go in there to fight for the city of Boston, to fight for the neighborhoods that are underserved, And you know, it's in spaces like that. If people are being preyed on, and we're allowing them still to be in the city of Boston and taking our money, our taxpayer money, then that's a problem. So independence, Nadella.
Thank you, Nadella. But Nadella, I got a brain freeze. Can you tell me what NACA stands for?
So NACA is the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America,
Okay.
and they're the organization in right there by Jackson Square that really coined the phrase predatory lending. And my organization is the National Coalition Against Predatory Lending, a grassroots that takes on predatory lenders such as Blue Hub Capital. So Frank, please keep doing the work, and please, a big shout out to Miss Priscilla. You guys need to listen to people like her and her organization that has boots on the ground and really knows what the people want for a better government in Boston.
Thank you, Nadella.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Nadella.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Jackson has a question. Do we have no caller? Okay. Can I take the call, or you want to ask your question?
Oh, yeah, you can take the call.
All right, we're going to take this next caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, this is the next caller here.
Hey, Siddiqui. How you doing?
Not bad. Yeah, I had a question there for Mr. Baker. What is essentially is that we still have a major controversy going on. I just want to see what his position would be if elected. We have Nubian Square, Nubian Station, and of course we want the Nubian Library name. And so it's quite clear that the community wants the Nubian Library name. In fact, David Leonard, who's president of the library system, stated publicly that they acknowledge the fact that there's a strong sentiment in the Roxbury community for the Nubian Library name. Now, what has happened is that Mayor Wu has gone behind our backs and, in fact, orchestrated a process wherein, and it's now being called the Shaw Roxbury Library. And let me just say that we feel, first of all, we're upset that Sarah Ann's name got put in that mix because she would not be pleased with her being put in a situation where it appears like there's a split. There's no split in the community. So the question would be is, would you support the campaign that's continuing for the Nubian Library name, because we are not finished based on what that's about, because of the fact that we feel violated by the mayor, who, when she was running for mayor, said she supported the name, but when she got in, like a lot of other issues, she ignored the community in terms of what she wanted.
Well, I would be with the community on that, Siddiqui. And again, it's back to listening. It seems like there's a listening problem there. As politicians, we're supposed to be able to speak, but more importantly, we should be able to listen.
Right.
And I would listen to the community.
Because actually a resolution has been passed in the council a year or two ago, unanimously. And yet the mayor has made a determination, we don't know for what reason, of not wanting the names. So we would hope that if in fact you're back in office, that you would be on the council in support of the community's demand for the Nubian Library name.
Yes, Siddiqui, that's an easy one. I would stand with the community.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you, Siddiqui. Okay, Jackson, you want to ask your question?
So I actually had I have a bunch of questions that I wrote.
Let's start with one.
I'll definitely give you one question. My first question was, it's about White Stadium, and it was, how does this fit into our broader vision for the future of Boston parks, recreation, and education infrastructure?
How does it fit? Well, I think, excuse me, I think, like everybody knows, White Stadium needs some love. They need some investment. The question begs, do we need $200 million and half control? Someone else is going to be running that. Someone else that isn't from Boston, doesn't necessarily, their main objective is going to be to make money with a city asset. I've got a problem with that, and I think yesterday in the city council there was a discussion blocked about having a hearing on the alternative proposal by the Franklin Park Defenders.
Why was there a halt?
Why was there a halt?
Uh-huh.
Lack of independence. I'll leave it at that. So I mean, we need the investment there. You know, whatever that investment is. For me, $60 million going into something that's going to be 100% of our asset, 100% our kids, our you know, not just kids, because that's not just kids that are there. That's the surrounding neighborhood. How many people have you heard? I learned to ride my bike there. I walk my dog there. You know, Miss Jean, I walk my bike there every day. You know, we've got to pay respect to communities, and I just don't think that the community is being respected there. You know, and then to say, well, you don't want White Stadium done over. Nobody's saying they don't want White Stadium. I think everybody is in agreement. This is something that we actually all agree on.
We just don't want no private entity coming in, taking over something that the Boston Public Schools own. Because I didn't even know that Boston Public Schools own White Stadium. Yeah. So it's an issue.
And you know, state law says that you're not supposed to have drinking on any school property unless it's a fundraiser or something that is a special permit. We're looking to just have a beer garden, so it's consistently people drinking on that property. Yeah, that's a problem for me. Yeah. Jackson, I hope I answered. You got 10 more questions?
Like 15.
Yeah, let's have another question from the youth.
Let me see.
Questions.
Yeah. So, like, if you were to be elected, like, what guarantees are in place to ensure the stadium remains a public resource and not just a private sports venue?
Guarantees, you know, if I were there from the beginning, you would have heard a loud, independent voice from the beginning. This cake is somewhat baked, but I still think there's an opportunity to keep it Boston based. So my only guarantee that I can give you that I will be there as someone that will be an advocate for the community and for the city of Boston to rebuild White Stadium, rebuild the fields, rebuild the tracks, get state of the art, you know, places where kids like yourself can work out. Sorry to call you a kid. I don't know if we can do that anymore. Where, you know, real tracks, real locker rooms and things like that. Because I believe fitness is important for the overall person. So you have a commitment or a guarantee that I will use my voice in that and do the best of my ability to speak out against this public-private giveaway, because it's a giveaway. The Billionaire Wives Club, you know, they're there looking to have fundraisers for whatever. Like, this is just another. I'm gonna hold my comments there. So yeah, that's my guarantee that I will stand with the community on that one, but still stand with the community in terms of making sure it still gets it built and something nice happens there for the community, just not a giveaway.
Yes, sir. And then I had another question that's not regarding White Stadium, if you have time for that.
I'm ready.
So if you were elected, like, what would be your main concerns for the city of Boston? Like, like, how would you, like, help out the community?
So there's a lot there. As a district councilor, I focused a lot on constituent service, which is basically being available to people that call me in need. But if I were to focus on one thing that I think is going to help the city, like, I'd really want to work like Priscilla is doing mentoring and with her program. I think it's all in job training and mentoring. The way we used to do job training back in the day was we would have certain shops in different high schools, like Charlestown High was electrical, Brighton High was plumbing, and things like that. I'd like to bring back, and we could set up shops, individual shops in individual high schools to the tune of $4 or $5 million per shop. It would be a more prescriptive or more focused shop where we could now get real involvement from the electricians union, the plumbers union, so they played a real role in those shops. But also the high schools, I think, would have more interest. You would have more investment in those. Kids would want to go. If you knew as an electrician, you could, in 10 years, after being an electrician for 10 years, do all of your work in your neighborhood, help people that have problems in their homes, and you'd be able to make a good living to be able to to stay here, live here, and be able to pay for your life. Coming out of high school, out of, say, Burke High was electrical, and you went there, like how many kids would say, I can make how much as an electrician? And you know, because I went to trade school. I never went to college because I didn't really like school. I spent most of my days in school looking out the window because I wanted to be outside doing something else. But there's value in that. You know, I would never say to someone, don't go to college or because all you're learning, just like your phys ed, it's all part of building a better person to give back to yeah. So I just think we have under-enrolled high schools. If we started on one thing, something like building shops there, I think we would have more of a subscription into those high schools. People would want to go, young people would want to go into those high schools, knowing that after 4 years of studying as an electrician or a plumber, I actually have something that I come out of there with, and you can go to companies and say, yeah, I did 4 years. And when you're going into a trade and you're looking at trade schools or going into work, it's language and materials first. Learn the language, learn the materials, and if you know that gets you in the door. And also a look in the eye and then a good handshake to present yourself to get in that door. So those are the sorts of things. I think that's very important. That's just one idea that I have. Like Priscilla talks about, talks and bringing young people in a very easy setting. You don't need to sign up for the app. You don't need to have your homework done. Like sort of stop by places where you can run into mentors every night. It might be a police officer some night saying why he or she became a police officer and the work that you can do in your community as a police officer, or an electrician, a plumber, someone that works in a bank. We need to start talking to our kids younger about what life is like and different options of where to go and how to work and things like that. So I think, it sounds, was it Whitney? I believe the children are our future, teach them well. That sounds a little naive, but that's what it is. I think we're failing our kids right now. BPS is failing our kids. As a city, we're failing our kids. We're not wrapping around them. We're not mentoring them. We're not putting them on paths. We're not telling them we love them. Those sorts of things. That's what we need to do.
Right.
I wanted to ask about Madison Park. What do you think about Madison Park?
Well, Madison Park, we have, I haven't been involved in the discussions, but Madison Park, I'm hearing that there's $700 million of a redo plan. I would absolutely sign on to something like that, because I think we need all hands on deck, and Madison Park needs some love over there also. But I also heard something like they're talking about 100 different disciplines in there. I think that's probably 83 too many. We've got to be focused on what we're focused and realistic about what we're teaching, because there's value in, we need more nurses. We need more air traffic controllers. We need more, where is the future? Because AI is barreling at us. They're going to put a lot of people out. A lot of the lawyers and people that put contracts together and the people that pen to paper, they're going to be looking for work in 10 years. AI is not going to be able to replace a gutter on a house. AI is not going to be able to plumb a house. So we need to sort of pivot.
So those trades are definitely needed.
Absolutely. I mean, just look around.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Putting a different trade in high school. That's not a bad idea.
Well, but then you can, because our high school buildings, we're almost overhoused in our schools. We have, when I started on the council, I think we were in the 60,000s of what we had for kids in BPS. We're down in the 40,000s. We've lost 15 to 20,000 kids in our schools. So we've got to have some hard conversations in the next 10 years. All this ARPA money that came in and got pumped into the system, that inflated all our budgets. We're getting ready for a difficult economy for the next couple of years, and we need to pay attention to it. So we need to be more prescriptive on how we spend our money as a city.
That's right, and we need to be looking and training our youth to look at entrepreneurship also, because the mind is a terrible thing to waste or lose. And so we have to, be able to give them a future by letting them use their hands and their talents and their mind. We have a caller. Good morning,
Jackson,
caller.
thank you for the questions.
Good morning. I just had a quick question for the counselor. Under your tenure as a counselor, you actually helped pass the dual enrollment with the mayor then was Marty Walsh and Governor Patrick. Could you just talk about that as well, since we're talking about Boston Public Schools?
Dual enrollment, you're talking about college credits?
Right, so anyone in Boston Public Schools now can go to college, like they can go to community college,
Yeah.
Roxbury Community College, Bunker Hill, or Benjamin Franklin. So I was just wondering.
And that, I mean, that's just one of the things I believe in. I think that the colleges, everybody talks about how we have this wealth of institutions, colleges, and universities and hospitals. I think they need to step up, and I think we need more partnerships with them, and taking high school kids in to get college level credits. I mean, I think that's just a win. And it's funny when people ask me about legislation that I was involved in. I honestly don't even really think about it that much, because I'm about the future. I think there's so much that we can do and should do and need to do, but those are all good things. Yeah, that's about partnerships with places like Bunker Hill and RCC, and I'd be looking to enhance those. Thank you for the question.
What about pilot? I'm sorry.
last
I
question.
had to
I was
remember.
wondering
I have a question about pilot.
Payment in lieu of taxes.
Yes. We have another caller? He has another question. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
Oh, no, I was just wondering, because you have a relationship also with the union. So, for example, Wentworth has a relationship with the electrical union. And so I'm just wondering, because you were talking about putting shops in different high schools, how could you use your relationship with the unions to help Boston rebuild? Because if you look at a lot of our neighborhoods are falling apart. You see, roofs that aren't, in disrepair. It used to be the broken window theory that the police would use, but now it's like, let's fix our neighborhoods. I know ABCD has some different programs, but how could we rebuild our neighborhoods? Because that could be jobs for our youth, like you were mentioning. That could be
Yeah, well, I think you use the word relationships, and that's something that I really want to work on, because I think, not to bring it back to COVID, but COVID did so much damage to us. And from my experience in the city council, relationships just totally dissipated on the city council between councilors, and they're very important. And the way I always prided myself on relationships, I have relationships in a lot of different parts of Boston, neighborhoods, but also business relationships, union relationships, and I'm prepared to leverage any relationship that I have on a citywide level to help the people of Boston. And that's what being in this game, for lack of a better term, is all about, using your relationships as an elected to be able to help the people that need the help. So
well, we definitely need help, because we see a lot of our banks leaving. So One United seems like it's leaving both Nubian Square and Grove Hall. Citizens Bank left Codman Square. And so we're seeing a lot of areas where banks used to be that are turning into crime areas. So, I mean, Nubian Square, when it was Dudley, didn't have people smoking crack and using heroin. Now that it's Nubian Square, you see them all over the place.
Well, that talks about the mass and caste issues that we have, and having that issue in my family for a lot of years. What I noticed that is, if you have to draw a hard line on those sorts of things. You don't really. I think we need to be a little stronger in the way we deal with mass and caste. And when you say mass and caste, it's now exploded into Nubian. It's exploded into Andrew Square. It's further into the South End,
Mattapan Square,
all over the place.
Ashmont Station.
Yeah, every place. So, we have to use the tools that are actually available to us. And that's a difficult question, but I have some ideas around that. I do believe in a strong Section 35 program, but not Section 35, which is a civil hold, not a Section 35 program like you used to have to go in front of a judge. And having done this before in the past, I sectioned a brother, an older brother, and an older sister. they literally were put into jail. It's different now. They go into treatment, into more of a hospital setting. But those are the sorts of things I would think if you offered people treatment, long-term treatment, where they knew they were safe, they didn't need to steal, they didn't need to rob, they didn't need to sell themselves. There might be people that would voluntarily go into Section 35 program if we had the long-term systems in place.
Well, that was something Mayor Curley said, ironically, back in 1911. He was going to clean up Massachusetts Avenue. Then you won 100 years later, 2011.
Yeah.
And you start to see now on Mass and Cass, a lot of people don't know this, but they actually have a methadone clinic there. And that's part of the problem, because it used to be a Boston Public Health Commission building, the Yankee building, but now they actually have some other business in there that just gives out methadone. And
there's multiple methadone clinics down there, and there's too many services down there. And the reality is, when people overdose and they go into hospitals, the doctors just, once they wake up off the Narcan, they, whoever, you say the doctors, but whoever is in there, they just release them to the streets. So there is legislation up the State House that will mandate that before people, when they come in on an overdose into a hospital in the city, that we're going to evaluate them before we just release them and see where they should go. I mean, if we're releasing all these people into our streets, they're on our streets. And I would also advocate for some of this treatment to happen outside of the city. Then when they get out and they walk outside the doors, they're not on Mass and Cass. They're not a short walk from Nubian. They're not a short walk from Andrew Square. Like, let's start spreading those services out into surrounding communities. There's a lot of talk of a Boston Recovery Campus. That sounds good. I wish they called it a Metro Boston Recovery Campus and put it 20 miles outside the city.
We have another caller. Thank you for your call, caller.
Thank you.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, just very quickly, I had to come back on here. Let me just say, I heard the conversation around Nubian Square. This is Sadiq again. I'm chair of the Nubian Square Coalition. Crime is down. I suggest that folks go through Nubian Square. One United Bank is going to build their new headquarters, national headquarters, in John Elliott Square, which is part of the Nubian Square. So I just want to make folks understand that what's being said about all that negativity has reduced significantly, to the extent now that families are going on, they're bringing their families down there. So I just want to put that out quickly. I know there's not much time left, but I suggest Mr. Baker, you and others, do a tour of Nubian Square.
Yep, I will.
We actually do a walk every Tuesday from 3 to 4 with the Nubian Square Task Force, Torchlight Recovery Cafe, Marcus Anthony Hall, Bridge Over Troubled Waters, Dimmick Street. We're out there every Tuesday.
Tuesday at 3?
Yes.
Where do you meet?
We meet behind the Silver Slipper.
Okay.
And we do provide real-time services. 5 minutes or 5 seconds? Okay. We have another caller? Okay, go ahead, Jackson. You're on.
My last question to you was, if elected or if given the power to, make a change, how would you help make my community a safer space for the youth, especially, like, how would you change the accessibility to, like, the use of drugs and, like, weapons? Because, me, I'm in college, but, like, every time I come home, it's like I heard somebody got shot, somebody died, or something happened. But why is this happening so often? Why is nobody doing much about it? Why is this a reoccurring thing, like, within the youth? And then nobody's really talking about, you guys, like, I hear a lot of people say the work that's being done is for the youth, but nobody's really asking the youth about what they think.
Right.
Or nobody's really asking them, like, their mental stances, stuff like that. Especially, like, for me, because I do content, and what I was trying to do recently was go back into the community and try to give stuff like necessities, food, and, like, things like to homeless people or people who need help.
Yeah.
And I try to gather a group of people, but, like, some of them didn't feel comfortable going to certain places because of that reason. Yeah.
So Jackson, let's start a youth committee and we'll put you the head of it, and then you can direct me. And I do think it's about programming and make sure that young people know that there are resources available. How do we bring those into your community? Like, you tell me how you want to do it. You know, and that's what, because I don't have all that. I don't pretend to know everything or have all the answers to everything, but I do plan on being open to and want to help.
Right.
You know, so that's the first step. Someone that open and looking at you and saying, I want to help, you know. And that's
Well,
good news about Nubian Square if that, you know, if the bank is coming back in, going to build their headquarters there. That's good news.
That's true. That's not a rumor. That's true from what I understand. Pilot payment in lieu of taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when Menino was the mayor, he made that a voluntary thing.
Yeah.
For the colleges and the financial institutions. Pilot should not be a volunteer program.
Yeah.
Pilot should be a law mandated. These colleges who have billions of dollars in endowments, they're literally taking over our communities. We know Harvard is gentrifying Austin Brighton.
Yep.
Northeastern is gentrifying Roxbury and Mission Hill. And something needs to be done. Why can't and I know they're a nonprofit, but just because they're a nonprofit,
The
all
colleges
that
are
money,
nonprofits?
yes, they're supposed to be. But the bottom line is that they need to